Welcome back to Gut Feelings Life Unfiltered. Today, we are talking about something that affects your relationships, your stress levels, your hormones, and honestly, your entire nervous system. And that is
Good
conflict.
old fashioned conflict. And yes, I'm excited for this one because I've actually been reading Fight Right, and it's by the Gottmans, and it's one of my favorite books. I think it's like I have a lot of books that are like life changing, but this is one of them. And one of the biggest takeaways in this book is that conflict is not actually a problem. It's how we handle it that matters. It's so
Mm,
interesting because and that also I think it's like 70 or 80% of conflicts are perpetual, meaning there's no solution.
interesting.
So, but it doesn't mean that like it's not we're always going to be there's always going to be a conflict with our partners, with our friends, with our family. And it's really truly like how we handle it, how we repair it that is like the most pivotal thing in these relationships.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, because I think most people think that a healthy relationship means that you don't have any conflict.
No, that is actually the complete opposite.
Mm,
It means you're not dealing with stuff.
interesting.
Which is really interesting. Like, if you hear a couple, they're like, um, "Oh, I've been married for 20 years, we've never had a fight." That's not po or a conflict, we've never disagreed. That is somebody is abandoning themselves.
Hmm.
Somebody is not talking honestly about what they need or want. And, yeah, it's not real. Conflict is normal, it's inevitable, it's actually an opportunity if you know how to handle it, and I feel like my the relationships that have flourished are the ones that I'm able to have conflict with
That's really
because
cool.
yeah, I mean, it's so amazing to be able to have a conflict with somebody that you love and know that it's not the end and
Yeah.
know that you're safe to disagree with the person or it feels really healthy and safe. And I think that it's actually harder to find those people than we really think.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, because if you don't, I think, handle conflict appropriately, then that just becomes more stress in your body. And
yeah.
it doesn't just affect your relationships, it's going to affect your health.
Yes. And so let's talk about why conflict feels so hard because I think a lot of people struggle with conflict because of how they grew up. And
Hmm.
you either saw explosive conflict or none at all. In my household, there was a lot of dusting under the rug. There still is. And so what happens is resentment builds and it doesn't take much. Like if you're already angry about something that happened 20 years ago because nobody listened and nobody validated and nobody heard you, when you have it happen repeatedly, first off, that can cause like it can cause CPTSD, which I'm learning about, which is very interesting because every time you're with the same people, you're so stressed that it's going to happen again. So then you put yourself into this trauma, this fight or flight because you're like, when is it going to happen again? Because we never dealt with it, and it's like repeated things, right? So it
So then
is
your body sees it like as a threat
yeah,
instead of like a conversation, like it should be.
yeah, yeah, like, so if
Okay.
you these people that when you have a conflict and it's not dealt with and then you're around them, and then in my situation, it's dusted under the rug, when there's moments of okayness, you're like, you don't I don't trust it. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Well, because there's stuff we haven't dealt with. Um,
I'm so glad that you started reading this book because we are taught, if there is a disagreement or a conflict, to not say anything and to suppress your thoughts or your feelings to keep the peace. And I think when we've talked about suppressed emotions, this is such an important piece to be able to. This conflict is just a conversation where we're able to express, what we want in the situation or be able to have a healthy conversation about something you disagree with without it becoming something where you feel like you have to shut down or you can't talk about it.
I know, and that's why people react so differently, um, but it is It is such if we can just start looking at conflict in such a different way as also, like, understanding the people around us. Like, if they don't agree with you or they're like it's nice to know about your people and what their needs are and how they wanna
Mhm.
communicate. It's just look at it as information, and then both how do we both hear each other and validate each other in this conflict too, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we let, like, the ego lead, and
Yeah.
that's when conflict
Winning, yeah.
yeah, becomes something so crazy instead of being like, we're in this reactive mode where if we
Mhm.
came from a place of love or our soul, I will say, not the ego, the soul,
Yeah.
then we're coming from love and we're able to be more curious of like, "Huh, that's interesting. Like, why do you feel that way?" And you're able to
Yes.
just be so calm and have such a beautiful conversation over something that might not have been if you came from your ego.
Right. These there's so many mechanisms in place. I love what you said about all of that because using your ego, there's mechanisms in place to protect you when you see that conflict is a threat. And then yeah, it's just it's such a I just want to shift the thinking about conflict. But let's talk about like the pattern of conflict. So there's something I love from this book, and everyone has a different conflict style.
Mm.
I know, right? Like some people avoid conflict completely.
I know a
Some
lot of those.
I know. I know a lot. I actually know a lot more. And I think that I kind of teeter like as I've gotten older, I used to think that it's hard because I was a little bit of a I don't think I would avoid. I was a little bit of a possessive to like deal with the conflict, especially with partners. And then now it's kind of shifted to like some avoidance because my body couldn't tolerate any more conflict in my life. And now it's like it can evolve, right?
Yeah.
So some people are it escalates quickly. It's like they're hyper logical. And some people try to just keep the peace at all costs. These
Mm.
are all they're all unhealthy ways of handling conflict. And underneath all of that is usually something so much deeper. Like I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to feel like I'm not enough and I don't want to lose connection. It's all this like inner voice of um I don't know, it's just unhealthy patterns of what we deem conflict being.
Interesting. So instead of asking, like, why am I like this with your conflict style, a better question is to ask, what happens to me when conflict shows up?
Yeah, and this question alone can change like how you do show up. And it's because w- I thought like I was learning a little bit in this book. I'm still learning. I think I have to read this book like many times, but I think when we have a conflict, to have a reaction is it's so normal. But to be able to call it also, like, let's say you and I are having a conflict and I have a reaction, and like say you see me react, you
Hmm.
say, "It looks like you're having a big reaction. Maybe we should talk about this later, or let's talk about this when we calm down." Or even for me to say, like, "I'm feeling really big emotions right now and I feel really defensive. Like, can we talk about this when I'm not like at a 10?" And
Yeah.
that's like a really healthy, like loving relationship. Um
Yeah.
so it's really but it takes 2 people to really have that kind of, like, dynamic.
Oh, yes.
And that can be a lot to ask in some
It
situation.
can, but, like, if we're looking at why this matters to our health, I mean, this is where I always bring it back to the
Always,
health
yep.
because it's not just a relationship conversation. Like, when conflict is handled poorly, the body stays in a stress response over time, and this is gonna impact your sleep, it's gonna impact your digestion, inflammation, muscle tension, energy, hormones. Those people that have chronic trigger points, like, this is something that needs to be looked at too.
Yes, we always like to tie it back to this, and that makes total sense because if your body is in this constant feeling of, like, we're under attack, it
Yeah.
never can relax. So, like, for me, when I have a conflict, I will ruminate on the conversation, and then
Rumination.
I will replay it, and then I will play it and how I wish I would have
I
acted,
hate
and then I
that.
will play it for the future that doesn't exist, and this is not a healthy way of coping through
Mm-mm.
conflict. It
Mm-mm.
also tells me that this relationship is also not very safe, maybe.
Mhm.
So it gives me some guidance on like, oh, but I also have to own my responsibility in it, too. So, but that feeling of being under threat, and then like nothing is worse is when you have a conflict and then it's not dealt with in a healthy way, and then you have to be with these people.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, if every disagreement turns into a shutdown, like tension or emotional chaos, like your body is gonna constantly be bracing, and then you have to, like, be around them. We have to find a way of releasing
yeah,
that.
and like on the flip of it, a flip side of it, when conflict is handled really well and respectfully, and there's actual repair and there's actual validation, nothing feels better. I mean, think
Mm,
about like the times where you felt like you told somebody that you didn't like what they did, and they validated you, and you felt safe in your body, and you felt more connected. It put like for me, when I have those moments, like I feel so connected to that person. I feel so seen, and just, like, sitting with me in that, and it doesn't mean they have to agree with me. I think that that's the thing about these perpetual conflicts is, like, there's no solution, and there's no if you look at it from a win-lose standpoint, you've already lost.
yeah.
If you
Yeah.
have to get in the last word or have to make sure you ram your point in so they can fully agree with you, that's never ever gonna happen.
Yeah.
More the time it will not. It just, in fact, makes people more frustrated because they're never gonna they're just not it's gonna cause them to feel threatened, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that safety, that connection when there's true repair, oh man,
I
chef's kiss.
know. So you can allow your nervous system to settle instead of staying activated. Like, that's important,
Yeah.
guys.
Yes, so better communication that equals less unnecessary stress on your body. It's hard though. It's hard if you never were taught how to communicate in a healthy way. It is extremely difficult to do that. And if you've been married or have friendships or relationships that are long, like been a long time, you've seen all of the sides of the people, it almost can be harder because, these patterns are ingrained. Like I see it with a specific couple in my life where like they've been together for so long that they're so toxic to each other that they make it worse. Like
Yeah.
they've taught each other how to be shitty to each other,
Mm.
and that I don't know. It would be tough to be in that kind of relationship to
Yeah.
not be
I'm
fully able to communicate.
I think that like most of us already have enough stress in our lives. So when I talk about like the stress bucket, like this is an area where you do have some control. Like if you learn how to communicate properly or have disagreements in a healthy way, like then you aren't adding more stress into the bucket to overflow and create health symptoms. So this is an area where I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit of work, but imagine how your relationships can be when you learn how to communicate without such defensiveness and you're more curious and open. I love that movie Ted Lasso because he taught me how to be curious. Like I just felt
Mm.
like that was such a awesome part of the show. Like just
Oh,
be
I
more
know.
curious and less judgmental. Like I think we all could learn that. Like, it allows us to go back into our body and be, like, just curious about the other person and what their thoughts are too.
Oh my I remember so Ted Lasso is an amazing show to learn to teach people how to communicate. Like, I really
Yeah.
think it's a great way to, like, if you wanna make change in your life, like, to watch that show because it's so relatable. Like, do you remember
So
the
good.
scene with Ted Lasso and his boss, the blonde chicken, I don't remember her
Yeah.
name, and she was going to tell him, I've been trying to sabotage your job," and he was just
Oh,
like
that's right, yeah.
and he was like, "Life's hard." Like, he didn't own her anger. He didn't
Yeah.
own it wasn't, you know, it was just such this beautiful way of, like, acceptance of another person and just seeing her heart for who she is truly, and, like, I don't know, it just was such a great so, like, I really suggest if you're looking for something how to handle conflict. He is kind of a codependent, But,
Yeah.
anyways, so
But as you guys have listened to our podcast, you can kind of observe the show and be like, "Oh, look at that and this and that."
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about what healthy conflict looks like. I like this. I mean, it's nice for us to talk about all the things that like aren't healthy and how what's creating the problem, but it's also helpful to look at like what can I do to have these healthy conflicts in my life and like maintain my relationships and actually form better connection.
Mhm.
Um so healthy conflict looks like staying respectful, which is hard when
Mhm.
we don't agree and we feel like we're being attacked. We stay respectful to ourselves and to them, not attacking the person, which kind of really falls into the respectful thing. Attacking the person can look like not what we all think. Like, I was raised in thinking that like yelling was the only form of verbal abuse. There is manipulation as a form of verbal abuse. Gaslighting is a form of verbal abuse. When you belittle somebody in a sarcastic undertone, like passive aggressive way, that's verbal abuse. There's a lot of forms of verbal abuse. You don't have to just yell. In fact, sometimes yelling is not directed at the person, it's just a form of expression. It might be healthier for a person to yell than have somebody say something under their breath or be passive aggressive. Um, being honest without being harsh, again, this falls under like the same umbrella of verbal abuse, and listening to understand, listening, like you said, curiosity, asking questions. Like if somebody comes at you with something that they feel like you did, and you say, you're not really sure on like why they're doing that, like instead of getting defensive, ask them like this really feels like it's so triggering to you and I really want to understand more. Like I just truly want to understand what is going on here and then so I can be better and help and understand whatever. Like truly
Yeah.
like love, that's just loving the person.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also looks like where you're staying with one issue. I know we have so many thoughts in our
That's a
mind
good
when we're
point.
having an agreement, and
Yeah.
we just wanna talk about all the other things. I think a lot of times too, I feel like I need to interject or say this thought that came to my mind because I will forget it. I'm in this heated I'm like, I need to say this now. But
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is just let that go, stay with the one issue. We don't want to bring up the past. We're just in the present moment and be willing to take a break. Like if your partner or the person you're having the disagreement with needs a break, like Melissa said, they're
Yeah.
saying like, "Hey, this is not a good time. Like I need to revisit this later." Don't like take that personally. Don't be like all offensive about it, but take a break with that person and come back to it later and make sure that you do come back with curiosity and love and repair.
I do. Okay, so I love the taking a break. I also need to stress though that with an anxious attachment person, which would be me in my past relation, my marriage and my relationships, you need to give that person a timeline. Like I need to take a break. I'm feeling very triggered right now. Can we come back in 30 minutes? I'm going to go take a walk.
Okay.
Because and it needs to be within 24 hours. You can't, like, say, "We're gonna deal with this a week from now." That doesn't because, usually anxious attached people are with avoidant attached people. They love each other because they're like the anxious person. They're always there's never really, like, two anxious people or two avoidant people. Like, it's for some reason, this is just, like, two puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together.
Yeah.
So, if you do need a break, whatever side of it you are on, you always need to have a plan to give to that person to say, "Let's follow up in 30 minutes," but keep it within 24 hours so you can repair it and there's not resentment that's built up or forgotten words or, like, how you wanna talk about it or how you wanna communicate it. Like, be in that moment. So, that's
Yeah.
kind
And I think a lot of it too with disagreements or conflict is we're in that state of our nervous system where we're kind of more triggered or activated and we need
Yeah.
to bring back in the sympathetic or parasympathetic.
Mhm.
So we can do that with breath. Like even right in the moment, you can breathe and have a
Mhm.
slow exhale because when you're coming from the ego or the mind, like with all the thoughts, like it's gonna be a pretty intense conflict. But if you're able to then switch your nervous system state into a rest, repair, calm, you can then come from love. You can come from the soul. You can come from a place of level headed
Mhm.
instead of a reaction. And, then you can really say things like, "That came out wrong," or, "I see
Yes.
that how I hurt you," or,
Mhm.
"We're on the same team." I think when you say that to the person, "We're on the same team," immediately they can exhale and relax. So, when you're coming from that calm place, like, you're able to choose your words, your prefrontal cortex turns back on because your fear brain is not running the show, and you're able to like pick some words and connect, and like, because you both love each other, so how can we connect to that and come from that place?
Yeah. Those are some such such good points. Um and I had a great point too and I cannot think of it right now. um oh
Very
no,
menopause.
no, this is what okay. So what you said about your words and you said I wish I would have chose my words differently. I think also like in conflict being authentic human being and saying like I shouldn't have said those words. Can I change it? Can we stop?
Mhm,
Can
mhm.
I reframe and make that's not exactly what I meant. And I meant, I wish it would have come out better and I wish it would have come out kinder to you. Can I change it? Like stopping in this conflict and like pivoting a little bit and then also being authentic to who you are, like that you're just a human and you said what you said is not how you meant it. And I know that it sounds hurtful, but to just like switch it, say it again. Like you can stop in the middle of these conflicts and be like, oh, I see. Let me say it in a different way. And
Yeah,
and but also like say it in a different way, not to prove to them that you're right,
yeah.
you know?
That's the ego.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much in this episode that like there's a lot of aspects of conflict that I would like love to talk about that are just like I think that's why like I'm freezing every now and then 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god, and then there's this and then there's this." But we'll like look at this as like your baseline conflict.
Yeah,
Like there's so many more aspects of this that we're not even talking about, but we just want you to like understand that conflict is okay. Let's talk about like practical tools
yeah,
and how to actually like use this. And we've already kind of touched on this, but just slowing down, you talked
yeah,
about that. Um, like a fast nervous system is going to really like lead to a reactive communication,
yeah.
and that is a huge part of this.
Yeah, and speaking from your experience,
Mhm.
so I felt hurt when you said this instead of "you always."
Yes,
Less blaming, more clarity.
yes. Always say I. Never
Mm.
say you. I
Yeah.
feel. I feel that when this happened, I felt like just it's about you, it's about your journey. I would say get curious, we've said that. What did you hear me say is a great way.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
what when I said that, what did you hear me say? Because that curiosity is going to lower the defense mechanism. I mean, even the conflicts I've had, like I've asked people to be just like get curious with me, like dive deep, like why do you think I'm acting like this? And if you can get out of your ego, you can start asking those questions to the people.
Yeah. And like we said too, like taking a
Yeah.
break when
Mhm.
needed. Like, don't I mean, you don't want to avoid the conflict, but and tell them too, like, hey, taking the break, like Melissa said, give them the time frame. I'm gonna come back to you in 10 minutes. But just pause or even like pause and take a like give me 2 minutes to breathe here for a second. I mean, that might sound strange, but you could just say, give me just a minute and then do a couple breaths with slow exhale, and you don't even have to disappear at that point.
No, right. I think that's like such a huge one. That's probably one of my biggest ones of being able to like call that. But you're okay. So also you're on the same team. If you're in a
Mhm.
conflict, stay on the same team. This is a huge one. It's not you versus them. It's both of you. It's both of you versus the problem because each one of you, we all have our own agenda and our own idea of what we're talking about. But if we can come together and be as one team, it works so much better in conflict.
Yeah. And knowing your pattern can be helpful too. So, like,
Mhm.
are you somebody that does shut down? Or are you somebody that escalates? Or are you a people pleaser? But awareness of your pattern can kind of just help you know what you might need in that situation.
Yeah. And let's talk about the women, of course, because we
Mm.
only talk about but I want to say something specifically for women, and a lot of women are taught to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
We are taught to keep the peace, not rock the boat, stay small, don't take up space. I mean, I've seen it even in myself in my 40s. Like, I still see me doing that, and then, and then also taking up space and then being like, "Ooh, that felt really weird. Like, am I too big in this moment? Am I too
Mm,
loud in this moment?" Um, but it's such a thing for women. We were taught to be pretty good little girls.
yeah.
Little girls.
And that will lead to suppressing your feelings and building resentment and even disconnecting from your own self, which then becomes more internal stress.
Yeah, so learning how to communicate honestly and handle conflict is actually part of a huge, huge part of the healing process.
Yeah. I mean, you can't stay fully connected to yourself if you're constantly abandoning yourself to avoid conflict.
Yes. So if we could leave you with one takeaway, it's this: conflict is not the enemy, it is how you handle it that matters. And when you have conflict, you can actually form better connections with people.
And better communication is not just good for your relationship, like, it's good for your nervous system,
Yeah.
guys. Like, your stress level and your overall health if you can handle this conflict in a healthy way.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to like be perfect. Again, like stay curious, ask questions. You just have to become more aware and more willing to repair and to sit with the discomfort. Like it is really really painful when you know you've wronged somebody and you avoid it and you don't deal with it. It is so painful to sit in that space and accept and like to hear it. But think if you love the person and you want to continue
Yeah.
to build a beautiful dynamic relationship, you kind of have to sit in that space.
Exactly. I mean, this is a part of health as well. Like, I know
Yeah.
you're probably like, this is a little off topic, but it is a piece of the puzzle. And I mean, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode and you can kind of see how it can fit into your life. But yeah, post, share and post and share it with people that could definitely use some tips like this.
Yes. And we will see you next time.
Bye guys.